obviously you've had some personnel run-ins. Can you overcome this if you get in as mayor?
Yes. And I'll explain to you how that works, because that question has arisen over time. When I was city manager, I served not only the public and the employees as their manager, but I served 9 elected officials. One can only imagine, if you've not been in those shoes, what's that like. That's a tough row to hoe, because of course many of them have differing political philosophies and expectations about what the city should be doing. When you are staff, you are subject to their criticism, the elected officials' criticism, and their dissatisfaction, which is what happened to me. This time around, running out to the public, if you will, in a campaign and asking their thoughts and getting their input on how the city should be run, and getting the tremendous reception that we've done, the officials who are now in place have taken notice of that. I need to remind everybody that the mayor is the only at-large elected official, and so you go around and you're on a listening campaign and you're trying to get a sense of where the city should be, what's the common vision. As we have refined that and we have spoken about it, it has impacted positively, I think, the elected officials who are in place now. And I have been told by more than one of them that when the time comes for us to be in the mayor's office, that I will be welcomed as a colleague. It's different than being staff. The expectations are different of staff than they are of another elected official whom the people have put into office. So it will work fine when we're there. There's no question.
Yeah, because the city manager really has a lot of power.
Supposedly.
Actually, it should be.
Yeah.
They should have the most power. And then to meet up against all these different groups, that's a tough job.
It's a nearly impossible job, and one of the things that we have talked about on the campaign trail is the fact that our charter calls for a strong city manager form of government. But in order for that to work, we really have to let a strong city manager do his or her job without unnecessary interference. And the fact is that we have a long history of elected officials interfering with the day-to-day management of City Hall. So we're going to have to re-examine that and see whether or not that's dragging down our ability to be efficient and is hurting the morale of the workers, which I found to be the case when I was manager.
Okay. So you would be a mayor of action rather than just a tiebreaker?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We have an activist platform, if you will, working and strengthening City Hall from the inside out, starting with a very close examination of spending patterns, reinstituting audits that were not completed when I was manager, unfortunately, which I think will help us plug leaks in the ship over there and will also show us how to be more efficient. We have a lot to do in terms of looking at our staffing to make sure that we're not overstaffed in certain departments and that we're using our human resources appropriately. And then, once we've gotten ourselves stabilized internally in accordance with what the public expects, then we need to go out and do more listening to the public about exactly what they want their government, their elected officials, to be accomplishing at City Hall. So it's going to be a constantly interactive campaign now, and then an administration when we're in office.
For instance, you put in a city manager, and one night you're sitting in the meetings, and that city manager says, "I disagree with you." How are you going to handle it?
Hopefully with grace. Because the fact is that I do not want to surround myself with young people, yes people, who are going to be just, yes, we'll do whatever you say. A democracy and a republic such as we have nationally only works if we allow for the respectful discourse and difference of opinion. That's how we learn. And on the campaign trail, not everybody agrees with what I have to say. I have learned to listen better, and I have learned to refine and reevaluate my positions, clarify them as I've gone along, because the public's a lot smarter than we give the public credit for sometimes. They know when they are not really being told the entire truth, and they know when something's missing, and they will hold your feet to the fire. So it's a good thing. They keep us honest. That's what they should be doing.
That's one of the things I wanted to touch on. Today, we've got little investigations going on in New Mexico. It seems like every time I pick up the paper, somebody's under investigation. And it's a hard thing for the state of New Mexico because it puts the average person they become very jaded toward politicians. How can you overcome this? How can you personally overcome this?
There's a lot of cynicism out there, you're absolutely right, because the people feel that rather than having public servants, they've elected some kind of a royalty into office who can disregard the needs and input of the average citizen, and that is wrong. And for years, not in the first years that I was here in New Mexico, back in Santa Fe, but in recent years it seems to have gotten worse. And I hear that when I'm going door to door. And I'm knocking on people's doors and hearing from them. We've called, we've talked to people, nobody returns our calls, they don't seem to remember about us. This is the large working and middle class of the city. Mm-hmm. We have to get back to that as our primary calling as public servants and really listen to the people.
Being an attorney, you worked a lot with unions. How's your relationship with the unions?
I think it's quite good, and despite some differences of opinion that may exist amongst union members about this particular campaign or other political issues, if we carry forward with what we've been talking about, which is respect and listening and being reminded constantly that we are stewards of the public money, we are stewards of the public trust, and carrying that same principle into the unions, we will continue to have good working relationship with them. I was known as a very fair, open-minded, hardworking city manager. And when I didn't understand something, for example, we had some issues at solid waste when I was city manager, rather than sitting in my office and dictating how the garbage should get picked up, I was challenged to and accepted riding shifts with they were all gentlemen working in that department then. And it was the most humbling and educational experience I've had in my career. And I intend to do more of that, because whenever there's a problem with a union, it generally is a reflection of management not understanding or being too weak to handle it. So we will continue to have good working relationships with the union workers.